Jessica, how does it look? Does it look like we have most participants in?
I think we're good.
Okay, great. We'll go ahead and get started just to honor everyone's time. I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Melanie Mathovich. I'm one of the directors of personnel here in Garden Grove Unified School District. And I'm really just here just to start us off and want to welcome everyone for taking time out of their very busy schedules and lives to be part of our Choose Wellness event. I want to introduce our team here today. Our presenters. Oh, it looks like we have a sound issue. Okay, I know, I don't have everyone's video, so I don't know if it's, can you guys hear me okay?
I can hear
Okay,
you.
so there might be, we'll try to work through any tech issues. I'm trying to look at the chat for those things right now too. We want to make sure that everyone's good to go. So just a little quick check there. Okay, so let me start off by introducing our two presenters and our topic for today. I'm going to make sure I get it all right. Our topic for today is building relationships for resilience and wellness. One of our first presenter is Stephen Lambert. He's the coordinator of prevention education, and co-presenter Sherry Newman, family engagement program specialist. And Stephen and Sherry, you guys work out of OCDE, is that correct?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Thank you both for being here. We're looking forward to the presentation. We do have interpretation in all languages. It should be enabled. We should be good to go. So please, feel free to let us know if anyone has any difficulty with that, and we're happy to help. And we are going to have at the end about 15 minutes for more of a Q&A. So about a 30-minute presentation, and then 15 minutes at the end for some questions, and we will, anything that's in the chat bar, we'll take care of those questions at the end. And I think we're good to go. I want to turn it over to the presenters so they can get started.
Yeah, I believe we have an announcement about how the interpretation will work as well. So is that Jessica?
Yes. Sorry, Jessica.
Oh, no, I that's fine. I think, Melanie, we were going to have you just let them know how to use the interpretation to get into Spanish and Vietnamese.
So they should all have the globe on the bottom. Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Hold on one second here. So when they click on the globe, they'll see the choices, and then they just pick their language and they're good to go?
Yes, and then if they don't want to hear the original audio, then they'll want to go ahead and select to mute original audio as well if they only want to hear their interpreter.
Okay. Does everyone see the globe on the bottom? I see some head nods in there. Okay, great. And some thumbs up. Okay. In fact, before I do officially turn it back to the presenters, if anyone is having any issues, please feel free to unmute before we get started, or put it in the chat bar. We want to make sure that that everyone can hear. It looks like I think we're okay.
Perhaps we could copy paste the instructions into the chat just in case for each of the languages.
Sure. Jessica, do you have those? I don't have a set of directions.
I can type it up. I don't have anything
Okay.
ready to go, but
Okay.
I can type that up.
And hopefully they can read it here as well. But I know for those folks who are on phones, it might be a little small. So I just want to make sure everyone's ready to go. All right.
Okay. I think we're good.
Bueno. All right, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us here at Choose Wellness. My name is Stephen Lambert, and presenting with me is Sherry Newman, and we both work for the Orange County Department of Education. And our workshop, thank you for posting the instructions for interpretation in the chat. Perfect. Our presentation is called Building Relationships for Resilience and Wellness. We're going to be talking about the 4 C's, which are care, communicate, cope, and connect. So we'll explain a little bit more about what those stand for and what those mean as we go. But before we do, I would appreciate, we're going to have a few opportunities for you to participate in the chat, and you may not be able to see everyone else's responses, but Sherry and I can see them. So if you would go ahead in the chat, in one word or short phrase, what does the word resilience mean to you? So in your own definition, in your own experience, it's okay if you don't know, just type into the chat, what does resilience mean to you? And so we'll be looking at those answers as they come in. I'm seeing things here: strength, grit, perfect. Thank you for sharing your definitions. Absolutely. And we'll be sort of looking back at those as we go forward. And as those are coming in, I just want to quickly review for you what we're going to talk about today. So we're going to discuss what resilience is, what that means. We're going to talk about what the 4 C's are. And then we're going to talk about the importance of relationships, family values, and social emotional skills in building resilience in young people. And we're going to close by giving you some ideas and resources to help you create a family resilience and wellness plan for your own family. So you'll walk away with some resources. So to begin, what is resilience? So again, in the chat, we saw things like strength, grit, bouncing back. Absolutely. Resilience is the ability to bounce back and recover from obstacles in life. So as parents, we really want our children to grow up happy, healthy, and successful. But today's young people, especially now, are experiencing a lot of challenges that can interfere with those goals. And so resilience is that skill that will help them to get through tough times, even in the future. And how do we build that is what we're going to be talking about. So to think about some of the ingredients that go into resilience, I wanted to start by thinking about some of the common beliefs that people have about what resilience is and really what it isn't. So some folks believe that resilience is a personality trait. You're just born with it, this sort of strength. But really, I want to encourage you to think about resilience as something that is a set of skills that you can build with practice, right? Just as we grow and develop in other areas of our lives, and your kids are learning all sorts of things in school, we can also learn resilience. The second part there is the belief that resilience is, it's about avoiding negative feelings and not thinking about the bad emotions. But instead, I'd like to turn that and say it's really about encouraging positive thinking, acknowledging that these negative feelings are there, working through them, and then looking at the positive. And then finally, this is very common belief that resilience is about being tough and independent, right? Going it alone. When in fact, the core of resilience is about leaning on supportive relationships. And Sherry's going to really talk about that in detail later on. But really, it's not about being independent. It's about knowing how to use your relationships to get through tough times. So what then is the role of the family in building resilience, right? If it's not just me by myself building the skill set, what then can the family do to help young people develop this set of skills? So social and emotional learning, some of you may have heard this term before, or SEL. This is the process by which children and adults figure out how to understand and manage their emotions, set goals for themselves, show empathy for one another, really establish and maintain those positive relationships, and make responsible decisions. So a lot of things here, right? But this is that set of skills that we're discussing. And us as adults, we're going to talk more specifically about how you can help young people build all of these things. And to do that, we want to use this framework of the 4 C's. So care, communicate, cope, and connect. So caring, we're going to focus in on the relationship component. Communicate, how do you share your own family values and your family experiences with your children to help them develop these skills? Cope, so how do you model some of these skills for them so that they can cope with difficult and stressful times? And then finally, connect. How can you find the resources that you need to support you and to support your family in building and maintaining this resilience? And to get things started, we are going to talk about care. So Sherry, go ahead. I think you can now click on my screen. If not, let me know and I'll advance it for you.
There we go. So family caring and relationships. So, thinking about care is really about building those caring relationships. And where do we start with that? We start with it in our own families. So really, students and families report spending less time together because of jobs, school, etc. But really, that human connection matters. And the relationships that your students, your children have with you is key to their success in building relationships with others. So the thing to really think about is the fact that, human beings are biologically programmed to have close relationships. That's why it's been so difficult for many of our students and us as adults during the pandemic, having to be separated from others. So it's really important that we have those healthy relationships and we have that emotional connection. So what that really boils down to for us is thinking about it like an emotional bank. So if you're familiar with Stephen Covey's work, he talks about emotional banking, and he talks about making deposits, which would be showing that you care, acknowledging when someone is really trying, even if they're not getting straight A's, if they've moved from a C to a B, way to go, you're doing great, showing support, encouraging. And a withdrawal would be negative attention, really being public corrections in front of somebody, nonverbal sarcasm. A lot of times adults and folks use sarcasm, embarrassing somebody, put downs, and really making someone feel bad. So think about a bank account. If you have a bank account, you put 5 deposits in, and then all of a sudden you take out 10 withdrawals, you're bankrupt. So we're physically present, but we're emotionally checked out. So really thinking about that leads also to what's called developmental relationships. And Search Institute has really given us some great tools about developmental relationships and the developmental assets. I know in Garden Grove, there's been a lot of trainings on the 40 developmental assets. If you're familiar with those, or if not, you might want to ask folks at your schools. But really, it's not a new concept to think about building those relationships. And the developmental relationships are really about 5 different strategies to help us to help our children. So you will have a copy. I don't think it was mentioned at the beginning. At the end of this presentation, we have a bit.ly resource folder that will have a copy of this presentation. You can see that the developmental relationships framework is linked right in here. We've actually given you that document as well as some other pieces in there. But really, it's about showing these 5 different strategies: expressing care, challenging growth, providing support, and sharing power and expanding possibilities with our children. Those are all really critical for our children to feel like they're a part of the family and what's going on. And that leads right into communication, really thinking about and sharing what our families stand for with our children and sharing those family values. I'm not going to read everything on these slides. We're kind of limited on time, but I want to just give you the flavor of family values. What do we stand for? Family wellness really starts with us all having a shared vision in a family. It can be from a small child all the way up to our 20-something adults and other family members that enter our circle of influence, as we like to call it, making sure that the ground rules and expectations are set so that everyone knows what is important to our family. Is it important for our family to be kind? Is it important for our family to show each other grace? To be physical, go outside, play, do things together, maybe have downtime, read, those type of things. What's important to our families? So looking at that, we really need to plan in there. Part of that is about communication. We need to plan time to check in. One of the number one ways to have our children make healthy choices, not get involved in risky behaviors, etc., is really about having additional and family meals together. I think the number that Columbia came up with was 5 family meals a week make a huge difference in all of the risky behaviors a child might take, improves grades, etc. So keep it positive family meals, connect with your family members. Also, though, think about plan time to spend alone with family members as well. When you're doing that check-in and you get a sense that something's going on. My dad used to say, praise from the rooftops, discipline behind the barn. Or, check in if there's something you feel's a little negative and there's a little tugging going on at the table. Check in individually with your children. Make sure you're investing time and asking open-ended questions. How was your day? What does that happen? What happens when we say that? Fine. That's what our kids say. But instead, ask them, tell me your favorite thing today. Tell me what you did in science class. Whatever it is, try and engage our students, our children, our other family members as well. And really think about the screen time that we have. Right now, it's hard, isn't it? We're all online. We're doing so many things online. We want to set boundaries for everybody to be connecting. And remember that relationship, human being connection is about face-to-face connection. Sometimes that can be super difficult for us through a screen, but it's important for us to start with communication at an early age and connect with our kids all through that time. So really it's about being available, communicating regularly, checking in, use multiple channels. I remember my son used to sit upstairs and text me what was for dinner. Well, he was, 13, 14. That was what was important to him at the time. So you know what? If texting is what works for your kids that are a little older sometimes, jump on with them and try and learn more about the ways they like to communicate. I like to talk about sometimes writing love notes to our family, a little note that you leave underneath their computer if they're at home, or you put in a lunch or something. It's communication, but it's showing that you care. But recognize when something's off, and we'll talk more about making a plan to reach out for help if that becomes an issue later on. Stephen?
Thank you, Sherry. Yes, absolutely. All of those communication strategies are so core to what I'm going to be talking about next, which is coping. So how do you keep the ship steady when things start to become more difficult? So to do that, I want to pose this question to you is, how have your children learned for you? For all of you who are parents, right now I have a 6-month-old, so we're in the midst of teaching him to crawl. And so we're doing a lot of this stuff too, right? So how have you helped your children learn how to walk, how to talk, how to do all of the things that kids do? And it really boils down to they're watching what you do and practicing with your help. And social emotional skills are no different. So for this next activity, I'd like you, if you could, in the chat, put in, how have you dealt with stress? What are some of the ways that you deal with stress in your own life as an adult? If you could just share some of those in the chat, that'd be really helpful, and I'll call some of those out as we move forward. But some ideas as well to think about. A journal or a gratitude log, a lot of research showing that being able to express yourself in that way is very helpful. Deep breathing and mindfulness. Someone posted in here, prayer, breathing, exercise, absolutely. Playing the piano, talking it out with someone, absolutely. So the next thing on here, exercise and sports, whatever that means to you. Listening to music, whether it's calming or energizing, whatever works for you. Going outdoors is, and somebody actually just posted in the chat, thank you, Mr. Balius, walking, time at the lake, absolutely. Anytime that you can get outdoors, get some fresh air, especially now when our environment is changing so much and not changing so much when we're indoors, we really need that breath of fresh air. And finally, as Sherry mentioned, unplugging. Right? It can be so difficult, particularly now, for young people to get away from their phone when so much of their interaction with the outside world is in there. But it's important that we are modeling for our kids too. Hey, past a certain hour, we put the phone away. We set the norms in our family so that everybody's on the same page, because it can become stressful to keep looking through social media and news, particularly when the news is very stressful for young people. So when practicing skills with your kids and allowing them that space to sort of to make mistakes, this is some guidelines to keep in mind. So number one, providing a safe space, right? As your kids are learning how to make decisions, to communicate, to share with one another, they're going to make mistakes, and that's okay. So laying that foundation and saying, look, we're learning how to do these things. It's not always going to be perfect, but we'll get better, right? Then second, defining family expectations. Maybe there are times where your kids are becoming stressed out or anxious and they lash out, right? They may behave in certain ways because they don't know how to deal with their emotions. So setting the expectations and saying, you know, when you're becoming stressed, here's what I would like, I would like you to behave. But then recognizing, I know that you've been working to control maybe your temper, and I thank you for that work. Let's keep working on it. Talking it out when mistakes happen. So I know we've been working on your temper and you made a mistake, that's okay. How are we going to move forward and work on that better next time so that when you're stressed out, you don't act out in that way? And finally, supporting and not steering. For a lot of these skills, it's our instinct, right? To say, oh, I know what you need to do, son, or I know what you need to do, daughter. I know exactly the way that you need to address this. But really, it's so important that we're supporting them, not steering them, that we're providing them the space to explore, to try, to fail even as they're learning, so that they can learn to do it themselves. So I'm going to leave you here with a resource called Building Resilience in These Uncertain Times. You'll have a link to this in the slides as well. And this is from the American Academy of Pediatrics, and talking about how do you take some of the stressful conversations and thoughts that you're having right now during the pandemic and turn that into discussions that you can have with your kids. And how do you do that in a way that's going to help them to develop these skills? So like I was saying before, sometimes we're on autopilot and we'll say to our kid, oh yeah, I understand. I know what you're going through. So maybe you, instead of saying something like that, you could prompt them and say, help me understand what you're going through, so that they can practice putting their feelings into words. And instead of let me help you with that, because that's our instinct, right? We really want to help our kids. We don't want them to be dealing with these difficult things, but instead turning that on its head and saying, how do you think that you could solve this problem? They won't always have the answer, and that's okay. That's why we're there to help guide them toward it. But so important that we give them just that little bit as they get older of agency, so they can start to develop the skills for themselves. And then the fourth C here is connect, right? And so we've given you some of these ideas and skills and things that you can practice, but what are some of the existing resources, and how do you go about finding them? So the first thing, and the most important, is knowing your local resources when it comes to maintaining wellness for your students. So at school, of course, reaching out to the counselors, the nurses, it could be a coach, a favorite teacher or mentor, another trusted adult, right, who can help to guide your young person through difficult times. Out there in the community, there's family resource centers in Garden Grove, there's Buena Clinton, there's Magnolia Park, all kinds of community classes that you can access. Somebody had mentioned prayer is one of their self-care strategies, and faith-based organizations too can be a source of guidance and support for young people, and after-school programs, absolutely. So be thinking, as Sherry had alluded to earlier, about the circle of influence in your child's life, right? Who surrounds them and gives them guidance, and who they can run ideas by, not just their friends and their peers, but the adults as well. And as your kids grow older, you may be thinking that circle of influence is shrinking and you're out here outside the circle, but I can assure you that that's not true. A lot of research has found that your kids are absolutely looking to you and the way that you deal with problems and the way that you are able to surmount challenges, so that they can learn from your example. So don't lose hope as your kids get older. I know I was a teenager as well. It can feel like, oh, they're not listening to me at all. So I'm here to assure you that's not true. It may look a little different, and they may never come out and tell you, oh, mom, I'm still listening to you. I'm not too cool. They may not say that, but it's in there. It's in that developing brain. And then finally, know those emergency mental health resources that are available to you. And the Garden Grove Unified School District has a great list that they can provide. So thinking about what I had mentioned earlier, go ahead and post in the chat, who is in your child's circle of influence? Who are those trusted adults who your child could turn to? And it could be a relative, it could be somebody who's out there in the community at a faith-based organization. So who are those other adults out there? So, and the reason that we keep asking these questions for you in the chat is because we're hoping that some of these responses will get the wheels turning as you move toward building your own plan, which Sherry is going to talk about in a second. So it's all intentional. The last resource that I want to throw in here is the Reset Toolbox, and that's an acronym which I'm not going to try and recreate, but this is a website that you can access all kinds of free videos, self-paced courses, trainings, other webinars like this one, and all sorts of resources to help you build resilience in yourself, as well as build it in your children, and at your own pace and at your own speed. So if you go to resettoolbox.com, again, you'll have access to this in the slides, but you can go straight to resettoolbox.com. You can go and check those out as well. So now I'm going to hand it back to Sherry, and she's going to talk about your wellness plan and how to do that.
Okay, so we've talked a little bit about the circle of influence and the folks around us that can help us when we're in need. You know, sometimes it's important for a child really to have an adult that's outside the direct family circle, or someone else they can go to, that caring person that they feel is there for them. So it's really about us having a plan for our own emotional health. Whoops. It jumps back and forth on me and doesn't want me to do this. So I like to talk about a family wellness plan, and our resilience and wellness plan, if you will. And I want to say, well, why? Let's play devil's advocate a little bit. Why is that important? Why should I have a family wellness plan? I want you to think for a moment about, are you a Smokey the Bear or are you a firefighter? So most of us know Smokey the Bear is all about prevention. You do things to stop fires before they even start. So do you make a plan? Are you ready? Do you have a way that you're going to deal with situations? Or are you that firefighter that walks in when anger and things are in a full blaze with your family and your kids, and you've got your hose trying to put out the fire and figure out what happened before you really even thought about anything that was going on? So really think about the fact that we have a fire drill or a safety plan or a safe word, or people that we have our kids going to if there's a problem. It's really about that wellness planning, and it's about agreed upon strategies for coping with situations. As Stephen mentioned, if you've got a stressful situation, part of our family values can be about how we handle that. And remember, kids learn most by what is modeled for them. So if we as parents blow up when something goes the wrong way, they will see that and think that's how to deal with it, versus knowing that, okay, I need to think about what I did and how could I maybe have made a better choice, or what are some other option I have. So it's really a multidimensional plan that we use to be able to move forward. And for family wellness and resilience, right now, for this context, it can have all of these different sections in it. And just so you know, family wellness plans are different for every single family, because again, it's going to be really modeled around your family values and what's important to you. But it will include emotional strategies, our social and relational strategies, the environment around us. Is physical activity important to your family? Is having a calm area or a peaceful spot in your home important? Education and employment might be important, intellectual or spiritual as well, but we're really focusing mostly on those first three. So I want you to think about, we need to understand our own families. So thinking about those 4 areas we talked about, showing we care, having that communication for family relationships and wellness, building resilience by really having coping skills when those difficulties arise, and learning how to connect, knowing how to look for resources. I like to think about it like a tool belt. You can't build a house with one screwdriver. If that's all you have, if your contractor shows up at the door with one screwdriver, I think you might be in trouble. So you need to have lots of different tools in there for different situations. And that's what this is really about. So getting ready to create your own plan is really about having that shared vision. And I'm always a big proponent of family meetings. And that's for everyone in the family, littles all the way to older kids. And it's, you're going to have it be age appropriate. Maybe a little kid draws a picture about what they would like to see in their family. Maybe an older kid shares something, but have everyone contribute. You can even have people write something on a piece of paper, say, hey, I know we haven't done this before, but we're going to have a meeting to talk about our plan and what we want to do for family wellness. Have everyone contribute, put it on a piece of paper, fold them up, put them in a bowl. They can draw out somebody else's, or they can read their own. You decide what that looks like. It's really more about this process than about the product. It's about engaging and involving everybody. If you start communicating and you start talking about these things with your kids early on, and they're invested and engaged in what happens within their family, they will think about, oh, we have our next family meeting in 2 weeks. I want to talk about this. So it really starts to bring people into a space of not blaming and naming. It comes into a space of sharing and feeling camaraderie with everyone in the family. And remember, it's not a one and done. This is a fluid thing, that it's great to have a poster or something visible that you can put up so your family sees, these are my 5 things, similar to how schools have their 3 different things that they talk about. REP for my school stands for, respect, education, and, playfulness, whatever that looks like. So think about those things and have everyone contribute. And that's part of it. So we have given you a tool in the resource folder that's called a reflection tool. And it really helps you to take all this stuff that you heard and think about your own family values and intentions and work towards setting a goal. What are the things related to care that you want to share? And again, bring the family in. Communication, plan those family meetings. Time to just be is so important. Your kids not always seeing you rush to do everything. Just sit down. I used to, I think about when I was growing up, we didn't have the internet, thank God. But when I was growing up, we would literally be at a park as a family, lay on a hill and look at the clouds and say, oh, that one looks like a dog. That one looks like, oh, that looks like a cow. Think about having some time to just disconnect and really model those coping strategies. And think about those connections to the resources. Like Stephen was saying, you've got to know what's in your community. So look at what things are out there. Your school has got some fabulous resources to support all of that. So I hope this has been helpful to you. I know, it's a short segment. We many times do this in about an hour to an hour and a half presentation. We're so happy that you joined us today. And now we're going to open it up for questions.
Stephen and Sherry, I just want to thank you so much. I was listening to everything, and I have a lot of takeaways myself. I have an 8-year-old son, and when you talk about, how much they watch us and are modeling, and when you said, how do you react to stress, I was a little like, uh-oh. So I got to do some backpedaling. Anyhow, it's great to see we have 32 people in the room. The chat bar is open, I do believe. If anyone wants to type in any questions or thoughts for Stephen and Sherry, please feel free to do so.
And I can pull up some of the links as well and paste them in the chat too, just
Sure.
in case folks aren't able to access the slides or have difficulty with that. But it's funny, as Sherry, as you were talking, I was thinking more about, modeling and becoming your parents in a certain way. And many of us believe, oh, I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna be like my mom, or I'm not gonna be like my dad. But it's funny, I'll just tell you really quick, a super short story, because it relates to preparedness, right? So we would do all kinds as a kid. We would, get the fire ladder out and practice going out the window, doing all kinds of drills.
Same.
But my mother has just an insane amount of things in her car for preparedness. Probably 3 first aid kits, drinkable water. And I would always laugh as a kid and think, oh, I'm never going to be like that. And just the other week, my mom calls me and says, hey, do you need a first aid kit for your car? Because that's still that's how she is. I said, no, Mom, I have 2. I have one in my car, I have one here in the apartment. And I realized I have an ice scraper in my car, all kinds of emergency supplies that I keep in my car. I am super prepared. I am the person that people go to if they need a tool. So again, thinking, I didn't consciously say, in fact, I said the opposite. I'm not going to be like my mom. I'm not going to have all this stuff in my car. And yet here I am. So I'm living proof that your kids are watching what you do. They are soaking it in, and they're going to take in all of this preparedness that you're providing for them in their childhood.
Yes, that's very relatable, I'm sure, for many parents.
Let
And
me
I
paste.
mentioned the chat, but I think, is it okay if people unmute too, whatever is more comfortable for them with these last few minutes that we have?
Sure, yes. I'm just going to start pasting links into the chat as well.
Sure.
This is to the resource folder where you will find that template for your family wellness plan, along with a few other things. I'm also going to paste in the Reset Toolbox link into the chat, and you can check out some of those courses and files there. And then finally, I'm going to paste in the that Building Resilience in Uncertain Times from the American Academy of Pediatrics to get you thinking about those conversations with your kids as well. Oh, and the developmental relationships, that is the last one. I believe, yes, I will paste that into the chat. All right, so now I'll stop pasting links and we can answer any questions as they come up.
Any questions? Don't be shy. Feel free to unmute and we would love to answer any questions that you have.
Hola. Hola, buenas noches. Oh, buenas tardes. Hola,
Hola.
buenas tardes.
Hello.
Sí, hola. No hay buena conexión, creo.
Oh no,
Hola.
I hear you, Dolores. Do we have our interpretation available?
Hola.
She's available, but she's in the Spanish channel.
Okay.
Want to go to English and see if that works? Okay, she can try to come to English and see if she can chat with her.
Got it.
No español.
I speak Spanish. I can help, Dolores.
Oh, mi
Dolores.
pregunta, ¿sí?
Sí, ¿cuál es su pregunta?
No, para poder ayudar a mi hija que se estresa mucho cuando tiene mucha tarea de AP clases.
Okay. ¿Cómo poder ayudarla?
Sí.
Okay. So Dolores is asking for her daughter who takes AP classes. How can she help her with all the homework that she gets assigned?
Well, I would encourage Dolores to reach out to the school. Her child's teachers can give her some strategies. If she needs extra assistant, reach out to administration. If it's, something in particular or just overall support. And kind of going along with the presentation tonight, I think a lot of the support from parents isn't necessarily about academic instruction, just being present, being invested, asking them about how it's going, asking them what they need, but not as the parent to feel responsible for, the coursework or the teaching, but just, as a parent being invested in what they are doing, I think goes a long way. And I know I don't want to put Angie on the spot. We do have an assistant principal here, Stephen and Sherry, if you wanted to add anything to that.
Well,
Yeah,
for me, it goes back to Stephen's comment about, that we want to support, not steer, especially when, students are in the AP classes, they're basically taking college level courses. So it's really what can we do for time management and helping those students to feel empowered that, they've got this and they've got their family there for helping to support them.
I think adding to that too, my daughter had way too many AP classes when she was in high school, and there became a point where she was stressed out and it was obvious. And, as you said, I think it is so critical to be there as a support, not to do it for them or any of that, but to help them to process and think through how they could handle it separately. If you see that pressure rising, your child as a parent. So helping them to say, okay, can we look at what you have here? Let's look together at what you have and what you need to get done. How can I help you? It's all of this. So when is this? When is it? So just kind of start they will figure it out. You're just going to be there as support to help them start those wheels turning a little bit. And 99% of the time, they will figure it out. But that being said, we know sometimes, again, it's important, and that's where this communication thing comes in. It's important to know your children. So if you see it not getting better, if you see their mood changing, if you see that they are struggling, then that is when also to process with them about reaching out to the school, about talking to a teacher about the homework they have, whatever it is that needs to be solved, we want to model for them how they need to handle doing that themselves. So not to jump in and be that helicopter parent or that parent that just goes over to the school and, you know, does it all for them. The child really wants to be a part of the solution if we allow them to.
Yeah, I mean, everything everyone has said so far, I absolutely agree. I think the one thing that I would add to in terms of like skills and talking about some of the ways of thinking about stress and about what stresses us out is that particularly, and this happens a lot with really high achieving students, is that every test and every assignment feels like it's the most important thing in the universe. And if I don't do perfectly on everything, my life is over. Like that's barely an exaggeration of how that thought process can go. And that's extremely stressful to put that sort of pressure on everything that one does in their school career. So helping your child to understand what the stakes are for any given test or assignment. Not, of course, to say, don't worry about this test, you know, don't worry if you get a bad grade, not to say anything like that, but to point out, if you get a bad grade on this assignment, is there going to be another assignment? Yes, no. Is there going to be another test when maybe they slip and they get a B or a C on something, right? Helping them understand, okay, you didn't do so well on that one, but is there going to be a next one, right? Is there ways that, what got in your way of getting a better grade this time?
Right.
Were you stressed out about what you read in the news? Did you get distracted while you were trying to do your Zoom session? Helping them to think about, you know, is there something else affecting how I'm doing my work? And then finally, keeping their eye on the goal, right? They're in this AP class for a specific reason. They probably want to attend a certain college. They may have a vision of what their career is going to look like in the future, and helping them to reconnect to that motivation of, why am I doing this? Why do I want to get a good grade in this class? Why does that matter to me? And how does that reflect my values? Coming back to what Sherry's saying, we as a family, do we think that its achievement is something we can be proud of, right? Do we want to make our family proud? Is it something that I want to do for myself because I'm really interested in science, so I want to get this degree, or I want to help people with this job? Helping them to reconnect to what their reasoning is, so that when they get discouraged and they encounter a setback, right, they can reach down deep for that motivation to go, no, I'm going to keep going and I'm going to try again, because this really matters to me. As somebody, as I'm growing, it still matters. And maybe I have to turn left and go this way, but I'm still aiming for that same goal.
And that is resilience. That's what we're talking about when we talk about the fact that recognizing that, you know, we learn from our mistakes and our failures. And that's why as a parent, you know, as a parent, it's so critical sometimes to let our children have those. It's so hard sometimes as a parent to see your child do something that, you know, if I just jump in, I can fix this for them. But you know what? We learn from our mistakes. And that's the thing that we need to help our children see as well. So getting a B instead of an A on something, as much as that's the end of the world feeling for some kids, helping them process that. And again, if we've had those emotional conversations, then we should be able to deal with that. I see we have another question.
And just to keep us on track, we do have to stop at 6:35.
Yes, couple minutes.
Sure.
There was another question. I think I saw something come up in the chat.
Jessica, is this a comment from one of the participants?
Yes, it's a question from a parent.
Okay. It just says the workshop should be given to teachers. Their experience is they have a teacher that corrects the students a lot, and the children get stressed from a lot of the corrections. I mean, I definitely agree. This is very relevant, not just for parents, but for teachers. I think that's great feedback for us. And on our end, we can look into how we're sharing that out with our staff. And I've seen it. I totally get it. My son's in 2nd grade. I feel you on that one.
I see one more question. It says,
yes.
What is a good method to reward our kids at home after good participation? I have to tell you, honestly, the number one thing that kids really want is your time. Parents don't believe that. They want your undivided time. And, ask them, what would you like to do? Do you want to play a board game together? Should we go shoot hoops? Do you want to go to the park? Let's go walk. Your time is what's most valuable for them. We don't have to spend lots of money to do things, and different kids like different things. So just, get to know your kids a little bit and have some ideas. Maybe have them make a list. Each kid make a list of the top 10 things that you would love to do. And it gives you an idea. We don't have to spend money to do that. But I know we're out of time.